Obama officials just took their first hostage and start ordering everyone to ignore Trump's orders. Barack Obama and his cronies are at it again. And this time it is open sedition. Ever since Donald Trump was elected as president, the left has looked for any way they could to undermine him. Social justice warriors and liberal politicians have been calling for Donald Trump's impeachment over the mythical Russian collusion story ever since they concocted it in the media. And now these traitors to America have taken it one step further by taking their first hostage. When President Trump fired former FBI Director James Comey, the left went into a full meltdown. Liberals began to scream that Trump should be impeached for obstruction of justice, which could not be further from the truth. Shortly after Comey was fired, special counsel Robert Mueller was appointed to investigate the Russian collusion story. Instead of Mueller investigating the Russia story, he shifted his focus to President Trump. After that occurred, tons of leaks began to flood out of the White House, which has put our national security at risk. These leaks have been a bone of contention for President Trump and his staff, which appear to be an attempt to goad Trump into firing Mueller, which may be the plan by the deep state in order to push through the impeachment process and take back control of the government. Now, this may seem far-fetched, but after what former CIA Director John Brennan said, it may be right on target. John Brennan has been the most vocal opposition to President Donald Trump yet. Brennan has openly said that if the Trump administration attempted to fire special counsel Robert Mueller, government officials should refuse to follow the president's orders, as they would be, in his view, inconsistent with the duties of the executive branch. Here is more from PJ Media. During a recent appearance at a forum in Aspen, Colorado, former CIA Director John Brennan said that if President Trump moves to fire special counsel Robert Mueller, executive branch officials should refuse to follow the president's orders, effectively calling for mutiny against the president should the occasion arise. I think it's the obligation of some executive branch officials to refuse to carry out such orders, Brennan told CNN's Wolf Blitzer at the Aspen Security Forum on Friday. Brennan was joined by fellow swamper James Clapper, the former director of national intelligence, who called the appointment of Mueller as special counsel an inspired choice. Both men said they had full confidence in Mueller's investigation of Russian election interference and possible collusion between the Kremlin and the Trump campaign. They don't come any better, said Brennan. Nobody better than Bob Mueller, who is a straight shooter and will not be intimidated by anything. Clapper added, Mueller has hired at least 7 Democratic donors to work on his legal team, including one attorney who has reportedly donated $34,000 to Democrats. If he is fired by Mr. Trump or attempted to be fired by Mr. Trump, Brennan continued, I really hope our members of Congress, our elected representatives, are going to stand up and say enough is enough and stop making apologies and excuses for things that are happening that really flout, I think, our system of laws and government. Blitzer reminded Brennan that, as President of the United States, Trump can tell Deputy Attorney General Rod Rosenstein to fire Mueller if he wants. If he's fired, what would you want Congress to do? Blitzer asked. First of all, I think it is the obligation of some executive branch officials to refuse to carry out some of these orders that, again, are inconsistent with what this country is all about, Brennan answered. He added, I would just hope that this is not going to be a partisan issue, that Republicans and Democrats are going to see that the future of this country is at stake and there need to be some things done for the good of the future. Most of the American people who have been following this case closely would agree that this is open sedition. Former intelligence officer Tony Shaffer agreed and called for John Brennan and Jim Clapper to be investigated for seditious activity. Though before Trump can fire Mueller, he must set the stage and draft a public letter stating his reasons why. Kurt Schlichter from Town Hall explains why in his recent post. Mueller has to go, sooner or later. But the president must first set the stage and make sure the American people understand exactly how much of an utter scam this whole thing is before he acts. Impeachment, the ultimate goal of Mueller, Comey and their liberal establishment string pullers, is a political act. To pull off their unbelievably dangerous and destructive coup, the establishment needs to get a bunch of Republicans in the House and Senate to go along. Some of the Renos are itching to, but they are cowards and they can be controlled by fear of voter backlash. By appealing to the people and making his case to them, the president will ensure that the people will tell their elected representatives, oh, hell number and the cool sputter, than peter out in pathetic failure. Much like a Fredrican watching Cinemax at midnight without his Viagra, Trump has every right to fire Mueller, but before he does he needs to proceed with caution. If Trump were to fire Mueller without following this sage advice, the deep state could use it as justification to oust Trump. Then at that time, they would be able to take full control of the country again, and we the people cannot allow that to happen.